Hello everyone. This is an online lecture. It's the fifth in the lecture series, and the aim of this is really just to give you an overview of the main components of Assessment 2. Assessment 2 focuses on early ideas. It's worth 20% and it's due in week 4. So just to place Assessment 2 in the context of all of the assessments for the course, it's the second assessment. And really what it is a collection of all of the work that you've done from week 1 to 3, both in class and out of class. I do want to really emphasize that the focus of this is not on one finalized design idea or on a really polished presentation output. As this slide says, this is an in-house process pitch, which really refers to, I guess, if you think in industry, the idea that you might be presenting to your supervisor, to a design director, or to a colleague in the middle of a project as a kind of what's going on right now, where are your ideas sitting right now? And that means that, as again this slide says, we do not expect a highly resolved or polished end product. What we do expect is that you've really rigorously explored and experimented with research and making in response to the design brief. So, what do you need to do for this assessment? There are 5 deliverables, so that means 5 components that you will need to submit and present on the day. The first is the design statement, and this kind of is a synopsis of your design ideas. The second are the exercises that you've done from week 1 to 3, so the drawing and model studies that you've done both in class and at home. The third is the site model, and that's a model of the existing site. You'll be able to plug your design ideas that you've modeled in weeks 1 to 3 into this site model. The fourth are the orthogonal drawings, so these are the existing drawing package that you've been working on in your groups. And the fifth is the collection of your process work, both 2D and 3D. You'll notice that this lecture has a number of more detailed lectures that can also be listened to that explained each of these components in a little bit more detail. And I also refer you to page 15 of the course outline for a full explanation of all of this. Please feel free to contact me or your tutor if you have any questions on any of these components. So again, please see page 15 in the course outline for a description of the assessment. So what do you need to show on the day? So on the day, what you'll each have is a table and a space in the wall to pin things up. The first thing that you'll be showing on the wall are your week 1 to 3 drawing studies, and this will total 9 A3 sheets. The second thing you'll need to show are your week 1 to 3 model studies. So this will be 6 building models in total. The third thing you'll need to show is your existing site model. And the idea is that you would be able to put these models here into this site model to demonstrate how they work in context. The fourth thing that you'll be showing is your orthogonal drawings, the existing drawing set. And the fifth thing you'll be showing is your process work. What I'm asking for is for you to put your design statement on the top of your process work book or pile. To give you a little bit more detail, your week 1 to 3 drawing studies will be at 1 to 100 and you'll be pinning those up. You should be showing originals. I don't expect you to be scanning any of these or digitizing them or putting them into Photoshop. You're literally pinning up the work that you've done both in class and at home, so the hand drawings on trace. The second component, the building models, again, you don't have to be photographing those or kind of remaking those. You should be showing process models. They're 1 to 100 and they should each be on a plinth on the table. The third component, the existing site model, will also be at 1 to 100 on a plinth on the table. And the idea is that you would insert your best building model from number 2 into that site model. So again, that means you'll be grabbing one of these building here, the one that you're most happy with, and you'll be putting it into this site model here so that we can see it in context. Your existing drawing sets will be at 1 to 200 or 100, and you'll compile these as a stack or a book on the table. You've been developing these in a group, but what you'll need to do is each print out your own set, and you'll be marked individually on these. And then finally, your process work in your design statement. This will be compiled as a stack or a book on the table with the design statement as your cover page. Please make sure that your name is indicated clearly on your orthogonal drawing set and your design statement. So this means that you kind of need to prepare for how much space you're going to have. So I'd really recommend measuring the studio tables so that you can plan your layout so that when you arrive in class, you're kind of ready to go and you know how you're composing the space that you've got. Because we have 120 students, we don't actually have enough space in the room for everyone to present and to pin up at one time. So we are going to have to do space changeovers through the day. So that just means that you need to make sure that your stuff is really easy to move. So models should be fairly robust, not too fragile, and you should be able to easily kind of pick up everything, take it from the wall and put it on the ground so that the next student can pin up. The verbal presentation. So I'm going to be talking through exactly what you need to talk about, but to give you an idea of timing, we're going to be doing 3 minutes per student presentation and about 7 minutes for both tutor and peer feedback. This allows us a little bit of time to transition from student to student, and it also gives the tutor group enough time at the end to do a parity session. What do you need to talk about? The course outline gives you some tips, and I'll just explain those a little bit further here. So in 3 minutes, I'd like you to touch on 3 points. The first is research and analysis. So really this assessment focuses largely on how you've inquired, how you've researched, how you've tested, how you've experimented, and how you've analysed the brief and the 3 components of the brief. So I'd start by saying, well, I found these elements quite important, interesting, significant in my site and user studies, and this is how I've explored them. The second would be how you've translated that research into design ideas and into spatial ideas. So these are the ideas that these are the kind of research elements that I've looked at, and this is how I've explored them or experimented them or responded to them, both from a conceptual point of view, so like a design idea, and from a spatial point of view, so form making, the sections that you've done, the models that you've created. How have they responded to the analysis that you've done of the site and of the user? And then finally, reflection. What we'd like you to think about is, well, what worked and what didn't, and what would you like to do now in moving forward? And your tutor will obviously also be there to give you feedback on what worked and what didn't, and steps to kind of improve and to work towards the next assessment task. How do you respond to feedback? I know from being a student myself that feedback sometimes can be really hard to take, and it can feel very personal when you've put a lot of time into the assessment. I would just try to remind you that feedback and criticism it's not a personal attack. Feedback's there to help you to learn and to progress through the course and to improve for the next assessment. So when you're given feedback, it's definitely fine to repeat what the tutor has said just to make sure that you're clear. We're totally open to you asking questions if anything does not make sense, and also to you challenging us. If you don't agree with something, we kind of definitely support discourse in discussing your ideas and your opinions. It's really important to when you're reading the assessment outline to understand what you're being assessed on. And I will upload to Moodle the assessment criteria and the feedback sheet so that you're really clear on that before you prepare your assessment task. So for this task, what we are marking you on are a range of elements. And if you can see in this slide, the larger the text, so if you can see here, this is the largest text, the heavier the weighting, so the more important that element for this assessment task. So the first thing we'll be marking you on is engagement. The second is inquiry process, and you can see that this is the largest, so this is the most important part of the assessment task. The second is design ideas, otherwise known as concepts. You can see that this is also quite big. The third is form making, equal in size to design ideas. So this is how you've kind of generated spaces in both section and model. The third is visual communication, also quite large. The fourth is your verbal presentation. And the fifth is creative risk. I'll just run you through each of those in a bit more detail. So engagement relates to how open and responsive have you been to feedback. So is your assessment reflective of the feedback and of you responding to the feedback that you've received in class? Have you been engaged in group discussion for your own work and for your peers' work? Inquiry process. So this is really about how you've investigated, researched and analysed. So are your proposals informed by iterative, rigorous, experimental and insightful research and making? And has this research and making been in response to the brief? Design ideas. So how have you translated that research into conceptual proposals? And are those proposals clear? Are they insightful? And are they responsive to the brief? How then have you translated that design idea into a spatial proposal? So are my ideas translated using physical form with clear intention? Are they responsive to the brief? And are they sophisticated spatial decisions? Visual communication. So is my visual presentation, is it clear? Is it accurate? Are the drawings fairly accurate? And are they using architectural conventions? Is my visual presentation evocative? So do I want to look at it? Do you kind of sell the scheme? Or is it fairly dry? Verbal presentation. So am I clear and engaging? Do I sell my scheme in the way that I talk about it, in the body language that I use? And then finally, creative risk. This is an important one because this project really looks at you being experimental. So do your proposals challenge accepted conventions in an innovative manner? Who will I be assessed by? So your tutor will be the primary person assessing you, and your peer will also do an assessment. The peer assessment will not have any weighting. At the end of the day, we will run through all student projects with all tutors and myself, the course convener. So the run sheet for the day. We'd like you to arrive at 12:30 and there'll be no lecture. At 12:30, we want you to pin up and compile all of your work on tables and sign in. At 1 o'clock, the sign-in cutoff will kick into place. So that means that if you have not signed in online before 1 o'clock, you'll be marked late and you'll receive a 10% late penalty as per the BE policy. Presentations, so will be 10 minutes per student and they will run from 1:15 until 3:45. From 3:45 until 5:30, there'll be the staff parody session, and we'll ask you to come back at 5:30 to the room for a wrap up and to pick up all of your work. The day after the submission, so on Thursday, the 16th of August, we'll ask you to do an upload to Moodle. It's really important that your file sizes are less than 100 megabytes because Moodle actually won't accept them if they're bigger than that. So this will be one PDF which has your existing drawing set, so your orthogonal drawings, and one PDF that is a photo of your presentation. And just to wrap up, I just want to make clear that the focus of this really is on process, on in-progress work, and on discussion about a whole suite of ideas. The other focus is on sharing your ideas. So I really encourage you to have a look at the work of your peers in your tutorial groups, and also just have a walk around the room, see what other people are doing. I find it's a great way to kind of reflect on your own work, to look at the work of others. And finally, just enjoy the process. I know that assessment tasks can be daunting. What I did as a student was work together with my peers, ask questions, support on feedback, kind of getting an ear to go, oh, is this working? Is this clear? What do you think about this idea? It's kind of nice and more enjoyable in many ways to work together. So again, I just suggest that you listen to this lecture in conjunction with the detailed lectures on each component of the assessment. Thank you.